evening, friends. So once again, happy evening to all my listeners, all the students who have come and join us with the webinar of upGrad abroad. Yes, today we are talking about the 5 best hacks to crack IELTS. We all know that yes, in many of the countries, specifically when we talk about English proficiency test, it's one of the most important exam which is sometimes difficult to crack. So for our students, what we have done is we have arranged a session for them and we have called one of the best experts from Yuno Learning. So today we are going to introduce you the academic head, Sunita ji. So welcome to the session, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you know, we know that yes, today we are going to talk about the 5 best hacks to crack IELTS. Ma'am, just want to understand from students' point of view, is IELTS really difficult?
No, it is not. Because they've been studying English right from childhood. So it is not. And many students who have not studied English and they also target IELTS. See, English is just a skill. So if you practice regularly and you follow the right technique, because it's the technique that's important over here. Many students with very good English also are unable to get a good score if they do not follow the correct technique. So the way the questions are to be answered, what type of questions you get, if you understand all those things, it's not all that difficult. And of course,
so
continuous practice is needed.
Yeah, so ma'am pointed out a very important word called as technique, right? So friends, we are today going to understand what techniques we should be using to make sure that yes, we should crack the minimum band of 6.5. Maybe we'll be targeting much more higher than 7. And just for information, my dear friend, we give English proficiency test. The reason is, many of the English speaking countries, whether we talk about US, we talk about Canada, we talk about UK, we talk about Ireland, we talk about nowadays Germany, we talk about Australia, or we talk about New Zealand. It's almost compulsory for all of us to go for English proficiency test. And we are talking about one of the best English proficiency tests, that is IELTS, International English Language Testing System. So now, ma'am, over to you.
All right. Thank you. So as we just discussed, that IELTS is not all that difficult if you practice regularly. I'm going to share my PowerPoint also with everyone. But you should also know that along with IELTS, there are other exams too. But why do most of the students go for IELTS? See, many students are in the habit of writing when they're in class 12. It's all pen and paper everywhere. So IELTS is the only exam out of all the other English proficiency tests where you have a pen and paper test also. So let me share my screen with you all and take you through a few things. Of course, as Ajay, you said that we are going to discuss the 5 best hacks to crack IELTS. So there are many hacks, many tips. Various people come up with different tips. But which are the 5 best ones? I feel, according to the way the students have been able to crack IELTS and have been able to get a high band score. You talked about 6.5 band score. Well, I would say that if you target band score 7, then you can get admission in your dream university, any university you feel like, because the best of the universities with top ranking in the world universities, they give you admission if you get band score 7. So you should target that. 6.5, of course, is what is accepted everywhere, but then 7, the best of the universities accept. So before we talk about these 5 best hacks to crack IELTS, let's understand what IELTS is all about. See, IELTS is the International English Language Testing System. It is to test your English proficiency. And why is this test required? Because those people want to know whether you will be able to communicate in this language or not, because this is the language that is used mostly over there, the colleges. So your level of English is seen, how well you are able to communicate. And when we talk about communication, then there are 4 skills that are tested. Because when you listen to somebody using this language, you should be able to understand what the other person is saying. and accordingly respond. When you read something in this language, you should be able to comprehend that too and answer certain questions based on it, or maybe accordingly take an action. Then communication, of course, like you have to speak to people, then you at times you will write certain things. Now, when you go for the academic programs, you submit your thesis. How will you submit that thesis? Long thesis, unless you have a good hold on your writing skills. And all your lecturers are going to speak in English, and they're going to be from those native countries. So how will you be able to understand unless you yourself are able to understand the different native speakers? You'll find it difficult. So that's why these 4 skills are tested. Listening test is there, reading test, writing test, and speaking test. So the IELTS exam is designed in such a way that you have your speaking one-to-one with the examiner. So when you book your test, see your test can be, if you are taking the computer delivered test, because the IELTS exam can be computer based or pen and paper based. Pen and paper based, you can get 4 dates in a month. So it's mostly on Thursdays and Saturdays. Computer based test is on all 7 days throughout the month. Computer based test is you can get your result within 5 days. But pen and paper you get in around 13 to 14 days. So what's the main difference over here? Pen and paper, the main difference is that you write everything on a sheet. So you write using your pen and pencil. Either you can use your pen or you can use your HB pencil to write your answers. And in a computer-based test, you type the answers. So writing, reading, listening, either you write the answers or you type the answers. And accordingly, you can get your questions on the screen in front of you, or the paper is there with you. Speaking is always face-to-face with the examiner. So how does it happen? The speaking test can be a few days, maybe 2 or 3 days before the other 3, listening, reading, and writing, or it can be on the same day, or maybe 2 or 3 days after the other 3. So when it comes to the listening, reading, and writing tests, these 3 tests are on the same day. If you are planning to take the computer-based test, then the first is the listening, then reading, then writing. June onwards, there was a change that was made. If you take the pen and paper test, then first is the writing test, then reading or listening. In between, of course, we had some difference also, once or twice, like after the writing, the students had the listening test and then reading. But I think that's okay, because the most difficult test considered by many is the writing test. So we'll discuss later on how you get different questions, because it's important to understand the type of questions that you get in each. The listening test, if you start with the listening test, it lasts for 30 minutes. Soon after that, there is no break. You don't get any break. So soon after that, you have the reading test. It has 3 sections. So listening and reading, both these tests have 40 questions. There's no negative marking. Each question carries 1 mark. And the writing test has 2 tasks. Like the academic students get a chart or graph or a diagram or a map. You're asked to write a report based on that. You have to summarize the information given there. And in writing task 2, you write an essay. Speaking has 3 parts. We'll discuss the details, but let's understand which other hacks there are to crack the IELTS exam. Because understanding the type of questions you're going to get is one thing, but what are the other things? If you are planning to take the IELTS exam in the near future, or maybe 6 months later, a year later, or maybe last time you appeared for it and you did not get a good band score. start reading. Start reading academic journals and magazines. See, to get an overall 7 band, 8 bands, try to get band score 9 in both reading and listening. So for reading, if you start reading these academic journals like the BBC News or the science magazines, if you start reading them regularly, you will become familiar with the kind of language that is used there, because the passages that you get are authentic, they're all academic, and they're long passages, around 800 words, can be maybe 800 to 900 words. So to understand that kind of passages, you should be familiar with such language. So this reading habit will help you. So start reading journals and magazines if you are planning to take the IELTS exam. And which journals and magazines? The science ones, mainly the science ones, the academic ones. Second, now do you have any question? I could see that somebody raised hand over here. There's a second voice. So I think, Ajay, you can, because what I've been asked, there's a second.
No problem. It's purely
all right.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Shivashish has a question. Yes, Shivashish, what's your question?
I'll request participant to kindly, ask their question in the chat box. And ma'am, maybe probably once you go through, and if it is relevant, I'll interrupt you and then we can answer the question.
That will be better, because then everybody's questions can be handled. But yes. Anyway, since you've asked for general, so general training, you get different passages. So there's a difference in the reading test of the academic and general training. So in the academic, all 3 passages, like there are 3 sections in the reading test. And in the academic test, you get 1 passage in each section. But in general training, the first section can have several short passages, maybe 4 to 5 also, but they are very simple ones. They can be as simple as a notice that you may read while entering a park. They're that kind of short text. In section 2, you get 2 passages all about the workplace, related to workplace, can be something about the policies of a company. And the third section has one long passage. It can be from any novel also. So that's the most difficult one for the general training students. So this is the difference in reading. The type of questions that you get are similar. The way you are marked are that's all similar. There's the kind of passages that are different. And then it's the writing test where the things are different. Because in writing task 1, the general training students get a letter. Letter can be formal, informal, or semi-formal. Whereas the academic students get a report writing, like whatever information is shown to you in a chart or a graph, you are asked to summarize that. But in both, you write at least 150 words. And then the way you are marked, that is also similar. Right? So this is the difference. Now, one thing that you need to work on, whether you are planning for academic or general training, whichever it may be, work on your grammar. Work on your grammar. Please understand that grammar is important in all 4, because there are questions in reading and listening where you can answer them correctly if you understand how the sentence is structured grammatically. So you will understand which word to fill over there. For example, whether you're supposed to put the word fill or filled or filling. If you're familiar with grammar rules, you will know which words to put over there in that blank. So you'll be able to answer the questions better. There'll be more accuracy if you're familiar with grammar rules. Now let's come to writing and speaking. So in writing and speaking, in both these tests, one of the criteria is the grammatical range and accuracy. So if we divide it, like there are 4 criteria. So 25% of the marks are for grammatical range and accuracy in both speaking and writing. So your grammar should be so good that you should not make subject-verb agreement mistakes. You should not make the tense mistakes. If you're talking about past, it should be clear that you're talking about past. Many students who are planning to take the academic exam, or who have already taken, like they must have seen that if you have lost your marks in the writing test, then this could be one of the reasons, especially in the report writing one, task 1. If something is about past and you keep on using the wrong tense over there, you use present tense, obviously the marks will be deducted. So work on your grammar. If you haven't done well earlier in your writing and speaking, start working on your grammar. If you're planning to take it in the near future, this is one area you should improve. And then understand the uses of new vocabulary. Now, this is one common mistake made by many students, whether you're planning to take general training or academic, when those students who have taken and are not able to understand why they have not scored that well, despite having good vocabulary. Because the words are not used correctly. You learn a lot of new words, but if you do not understand their correct uses, obviously the marks will be deducted. So instead of getting some marks for that kind of vocabulary, you may lose marks because you're going to use it wrongly. And when you use it wrongly, it will not make a logical sense over there. So when you learn new vocabulary, like you learn or you acquire when you communicate with people, whatever it may be, understand its usage, practice using it. See how you can use it correctly to have correct sentences, that grammatically correct sentences. Okay, the next hack I would say is understand the types of questions you can expect in the 4 tests of the IELTS exam. Let's start with reading and listening. So in both reading and listening, you get 40 questions. In both reading and listening, you get instructions. Answer in 1 word only. Answer in 1 word or a number. No more than 2 words, no more than 3 words and a number. This way you get instructions. Always read the instructions carefully. Now, for what type of questions you get these instructions? Like in reading, you may get true, false, not given questions, yes, no, not given questions, paragraph heading matching questions, paragraph information matching questions. Multiple choice questions are there in both listening and reading. Summary completion questions are there in both listening and reading. Then there's a map labeling, like there's a diagram labeling question, which is there in reading. In listening, you get a map. So the map labeling, like you have to locate which place is where, depending upon what you hear. Then table completion question, flow chart completion questions. So you get this type of questions. For these, you require the correct technique. So it's the technique you need to practice. It's the technique you need to understand. So if you have appeared for the IELTS exam earlier, and you think that even though you have good English, maybe in school days, you got very good marks in English, but still you have not scored well in reading and listening, then probably it was the technique which went wrong. So that's what you need to master now and practice. Now, let's move on to writing. So in writing, you have task 1 and task 2. So task 1, you should understand how, if it is the academic, what you should write in different paragraphs, like in the first paragraph, how you paraphrase whatever is given in the question. The second paragraph, how you write the overview of what you see. Then in the third and the fourth paragraphs, how you give the details of what you notice in that graph, the chart presented to you. Similarly, in general training, which type of letter has been given to you, formal, informal, semi-formal. Accordingly, you should be able to use the language and structure different paragraphs, because there are 3 bullet points given over there. You should be able to answer each bullet point clearly in different paragraphs. That requires practice. Now, writing task 2 is similar for both academic and general. So you get an essay. Now, essay of IELTS is not the way you write the other essays. And most of you must have had CBSE board in class 12. So there you must have written articles. The other schools also, the kind of essays you write, there it's a different technique that you follow. But for IELTS exam, it's different. Like in the first paragraph, how you should paraphrase the question, how you should give your thesis if it's needed, then how you support your thesis statement, or how you support your points, or how you put the details about different points in the body paragraphs, how you give examples, what kind of vocabulary you should use, because it's a formal piece of writing. And then how you should conclude your essay. All this requires practice. So in case you have appeared earlier and you haven't scored well in writing, understand that something has gone wrong with the structure, the way you have used your vocabulary, or maybe with grammar. So there are 4 parameters in both. In task 1 is the task achievement, then like how you answer the question, then the lexical resource, that's your vocabulary, then coherence and cohesion, how you connect your points, and grammatical range and accuracy. In task 2, the only difference is that task response. Instead of task achievement, it's the task response. How you respond to the question, that advantage, disadvantage, or opinion, or solution essay, whichever you got, the instruction. You should understand the instruction clearly and write your essay accordingly. So there are 4 areas. So practice will make you understand. The analysis of your essay writing will make you understand which is the weaker one. So in case you have appeared earlier, or maybe now you are targeting, you plan to go abroad and you feel that your English is not all that good. So don't worry, it's not difficult. How you should work, especially for writing, because this is considered the most difficult by many students, understand which is the weaker area. Work on it, improve it, and then your overall band score will improve. Okay, the next hack is for listening. Of course, there are listening tests. For all these, when it comes to Cambridge practice tests, those books are there, and you get the listening tests and all. So you practice listening and answering the questions. Other than that, what else can you do? Maybe you don't want to go ahead with that book. What else can you do? On a regular basis, listen to the interviews of famous native English speakers, the cricketers. We have many from Australia. So you'll become familiar with the Australian accent. So listen to the interviews of famous native English speakers. Your ears will get tuned to that. You'll start following when the native English speakers speak. You'll start following their language, especially the way they stress certain words. And along with that, start speaking. Speak on different topics and record. Record it. And for how long should you speak on different topics? For 2 minutes. Why? Because in the speaking test, see, the speaking test is face-to-face with the examiner. So your listening lasts for 30 minutes, where you answer 40 questions. You get you listen to 4 recordings. 2 are conversations and 2 are monologues. So there are 10 questions based on each. So 40 questions, when you answer those questions, you should know that, yes, what the person has spoken and what has been asked. So you will be able to handle that well. Now, when it comes to speaking lasts for 11 to 14 minutes. It's like a face-to-face interview with the examiner. And in that, there are 3 parts. Part 1, common questions are asked about your day-to-day life. So you answer in 2 to 3 sentences. Most of the questions require an answer in yes or no. So instead of just saying yes or no, always give reasons. If yes, like, do you like, if it is, do you like to read books? It should not be just yes. It should not be just no. If you say yes, oh yes, I love reading books. Since my childhood, I've been fond of different books. Earlier, I used to read Hardy Boys. And then, of course, the Harry Potter. I think my generation has grown up reading Harry Potter. I love reading books. So what have I done? I've not just said yes, I've given some reasons. And I did not use the same word like, I paraphrased the word. I said, I love reading books. So you should paraphrase the words in the question and give reasons for that. Then in part 2, you get a question where you're supposed to speak for 2 minutes. Like, nobody says 2 minutes. The examiner says, like, you speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Don't worry about the time. I'll tell you when to stop. And you get a minute, only 1 minute to prepare. So you get 3 points over there to include in that. For example, if it is talk about your best holiday, when was it? Where was it? With whom did you go there? And would you recommend that place to others also? So this way, about 4 points are given. You should include all the points in your answer. And there should be a transition from one point to another. So you use those connectors also. And imagine listening to somebody without having modulation in speech. It'll be so boring. So you need to ensure that the examiner listening to you shows interest in whatever you are saying. So have good modulation. There are points for that. When it comes to pronunciation, so in speaking, you get points for fluency and coherence. Coherence is whatever has been asked. Do you answer that or something else? Start talking about something else. So fluency and coherence, then do you use connectors to connect your points so that whatever you say is coherent? It can be understood by the other person. Then, of course, lexical resource. Now, in speaking, don't we do that in our own languages also, whether it's Hindi, Punjabi, Tamil, Malayalam, any language? We use idioms. So similarly, the native speakers of English also use idioms. So in our conversations, we should be able to use some idioms also. So in your spoken, like in the speaking test, you should use 1 or 2 idioms here and there wherever needed. Some good collocations. Collocations are those combinations of words. You know how you connect the words using that vocabulary. Don't use basic vocabulary everywhere. For example, instead of saying, oh, it was very dark, you can say it was pitch dark. That sounds better. So the collocation over here, for instance, on every Friday in India, a new movie is not launched, it is released. So that's the collocation. But a product is launched. So become familiar with collocations, become familiar with idioms, and start using them in your speech. Then when you speak for 2 minutes, focus on your modulation, your pronunciation, practice this. So after this part 2, there's part 3 in the speaking test. So part 3 has questions related to whatever is asked in part 2, but they are more general, abstract questions. For example, let's talk about that. I think I spoke about that holiday, which was your best holiday. So in part 3, what kind of questions can you expect? Something of this kind. Do you think in your country, people like to spend their vacations at certain places? Is it a good idea for people to go out on holiday? Why should people take off from their work? Then is tourism industry like, is tourism industry good in your country? Or do you have more of foreign visitors? So this way the questions can follow whatever you say in part 2. That's how it is in part 3. Part 3, you should be able to draw some comparison comparatively. However, in my opinion, use such words. Then in part 3, give longer answers, about 5 to 6 sentences. So you can start practicing this with your friends also. Have groups, practice with your friends. And I'm sure you'll be good at it. Then the next hack is take mock tests. Why should you take mock tests? Because you become familiar with different question types, you practice accordingly. And when you take the mock test, you'll need some help, of course, with the writing and speaking, definitely. You can analyze it yourself also, understand your weaker areas, take it again if you go wrong with the listening and the reading questions. So these are the 5 things which can help you, which I've seen over the years, helping many students get into the habit of reading, more of academic material, improve your grammar, enhance your vocabulary, but also understand the way the new words are to be used, understand their pronunciation also. If you pronounce them wrongly in the speaking test, you may lose points over there. So understand the correct pronunciation, practice that. Then you should, of course, become familiar with the question types that you can get in the IELTS exam, the 4 tests, the do's and don'ts. Understand all those things well. If you have questions today, you may ask me. And listen to the native speakers and practice speaking yourself, because the most difficult part of the speaking test for many students is part 2, to generate content, to speak for 2 minutes and with good modulation. So you practice that and take mock tests. So these are the 5 tips I would like to give you all today.
So ma'am, actually, by listening to this, even I am feeling that I should appear for IELTS, right? Because, these are the 5 tips that ma'am talked about. It was like, basically we're talking about 4 elements of IELTS. That is, we're talking about listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And as ma'am said, listening, we need to improve our listen. It's very important that we should, listen to the few interviews of famous native English speakers, which will help you to understand, how do they talk. So then we talk about reading. So reading is more about talking, as she said, some science journals or magazines. So it is listening, reading. When I talk about writing, we're talking about, more or less we need to write something. So probably it could start from very basic things, right? But then it should then come up with the good vocabs, the good words and all. And finally, when I talk about speaking, it's more about, how do you speak, pronunciation, tone of voice is equally important, right? So listening, reading, writing, and speaking, the 4 elements of IELTS. So ma'am has beautifully explained us that how to go about it. And the most important thing is, at the last, we need to go for mock test, right? Because this mock test is something, hum kitne pani mein hai, so it will exactly tell us where do we lack, so that, our teachers or our tutor can further help us where we stand for, right? So probably we can take the questions, but ma'am, first,
yes.
probably
So I was just reading the questions now. Let me just answer these questions before I move on.
No problem, no problem.
So one is how to improve writing by keywords. Writing by keywords. So Suhaina, writing by keywords. You need to practice the complete answer. So this by keywords, if you can elaborate a little bit, I'll be able to explain it further. The next question is, what's the difference between general and academic IELTS? So you take the general training test if you're planning to settle down abroad. Even those students who take the academic now, after studying over there and working for some time, you will require the general too. So general training is taken for PR, and the academic is taken to study in a university abroad? Okay, on what basis do we decide if we should go for general training or academic training? Whatever your requirement is, what is it that you are targeting? So it is not which one has more acceptance. There are many students who are not able to do well in general. Then they decide to take the academic, work there, do some part-time work, and in the meantime improve and go for general. So that also happens. How to attempt speaking cue card. So that part 2 is all cue card. This is what I shared with you just now. I hope you got your answer. The next is I have attempted IELTS 2 times and got 5.5 in reading. So you want reading hacks. Literally stuff which I wanted to know. All right. So in reading, first of all, you need to analyze where is it you're going wrong? What type of questions are your weaker areas? Take 2 or 3 mock tests. Understand, is it the true, false, not given type of questions? Is it the paragraph information matching question? Which type of question you're going wrong with? First, this analysis has to be done. Then you understand the trick to attempt that kind of questions. For example, if it is true, false, not given type of question. So there is information about somebody or something given in the passage. In the question, you should be able to match that information. Is it the same? Because different words are used in the question. So many times students go wrong with these questions because they are not able to paraphrase the words in the question correctly. So you should paraphrase the question, understand what is asked, and then match it. Is it the same information that is given in the passage about somebody or something? Then it's true. Or is it different information given about somebody or something? Then it is false. Or that kind of information is nowhere in the passage about that somebody or something. Then that means it is not given. So understand your weaker area, and then you should understand the technique to answer that kind of question. Academic students find it difficult to get a high score in reading many times because they find the passages boring. That's why I said get into the habit of reading. And the second reason is that you start reading, the passages are long, about 800 to 900 words. By the time you reach the last paragraph, you forget what was there at the beginning. So get into the habit of making notes in 3 or 4 words about the main point given in that paragraph. Underline or highlight the first sentence. So you will know what is given in each paragraph. So when you have to attempt questions, you'll know where to scan, where to go in the passage, and then read that part again. So first of all, you should skim the passage. Skim the passage. See, if I have to read a newspaper, I'm not going to start reading every piece of news in detail. So I'll just skim through it. Oh, this is given here, this is given here, this is given here. And then whatever I require, whatever piece of information I need, I'll go to that part and read that for details. Similarly, you do here also. You skim through the passage, understand just what is given in each paragraph, make those notes. So the test lasts for 1 hour. Listening is for 30 minutes, reading is for an hour, and writing is also for an hour. That is 60 minutes. Speaking is for 11 to 14 minutes. So reading now, if you get 3 sections, so divide your time. Sometimes the students are not able to score well because they are unable to attempt all the questions. It's not that they do not know. It's not that they do not understand, but they're not able to manage their time. So it's not about managing time. You manage your own speed. Divide time, 20 minutes for each. Then out of those 20 minutes, take about 5 to 6 minutes to skim through the passage, understand what is given where. So out of 20, then you'll be left with about 15 minutes. Now, first passage, you have 13 questions. Second passage also, you get 13 questions. Third passage, you get 14 questions. So for each type of question, to understand the question, go back, scan the passage, and then get the required information. Take 1 minute, and 1 minute is more than sufficient. Practice this way. 1 minute is more than sufficient. If any question is taking more than 1 minute, leave it. Move on to the next question. Don't waste your time on that one question. There is no negative marking. There's no negative marking. And each question carries 1 mark. For example, if in flowchart completion question, in that flowchart completion, you have 5 questions over there. Each carries 1 mark. If you're unable to answer one and you've already taken 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, leave it, move on to the next one. Come back to it when you have more time left with you. That's what you need to do. And I'm sure with practice, your score will go up. We've had students who have moved up from band score 5 to band score 8 also in reading by following the correct technique, by practicing regularly. So I'm sure even you will be able to. Then next question is from childhood. We have very good paper and pen test, but not with computer-based test. So that's the best thing about IELTS. You don't find this in PT, you don't have it in TOEFL, but in IELTS exam, you have the pen and paper option also. So you can always go for that if you feel that your typing speed is not all that good, pen and paper. Now, when you take pen and paper, okay, in reading and listening, I must add one more point over here. Punctuation is also important. See, punctuation is important. If you have to start, maybe I have to write the name over there, and it's Ajay Gidwani's name, and I use the lowercase over there while typing the answer, or maybe while writing with my pen, I put small a over there, and I write his name. I will, even though I write Ajay Gidwani in my answer, and I feel, oh, I got the answer correct, I'll get 0 for it. Why 0? Because the punctuation is wrong. So to be on the safer side, you can write everything in capital letters, everything in uppercase, all capital letters. So to be on the safer side, I'll put all caps, A, J, A, Y, all in capital letters. Second mistake which many students make is they use their pen to write their answer. And when the answer is wrong, they cancel it and try to rewrite it. Obviously, it is not understood by the computer. And the writing test, that is, of course, the examiner, the human being checks it. So again, it is not understood. So what should you use? Use a pencil, a good HB pencil. Carry a good eraser with you. That will help you to score. And understand the instructions clearly. I would like to share one incident. One student was very good in all his mock tests. He got band score 9 in reading. Exam result came, got low band score. What happened? Where did he go wrong? He did not read the instructions of a question correctly. The question clearly said no more than 1 word. And there were places where he wrote 2 words also. So, read the instructions carefully in both reading and listening. Next is, what will the examiner see in speaking?
Yeah, ma'am, I'd like to say about this, because especially for tier 2 cities, we have seen that the students are hesitant about, the computer-based test. And that's what the ma'am told you, that yes, fortunately in IELTS, you have both the option of computer-based test as well as the pen and paper. So we have seen that, many of the students go for pen and paper. So it's all up to you. It's neither, nothing is good or bad, but it all depends on you. And then the second very important point, what ma'am pointed out is, yes, read the instruction very carefully, right? So even what we do, ma'am, is, when we give the assignment or test to the student, purposefully we made something false and then say, like we include not, so that the students are confused. So it's very important for all of us that, we need to first read the question and instructions very carefully, and then only we solve it. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. And in the pen and paper, for the pen and paper test, see, when you go for these practice books, the Cambridge practice test books, or even on Google also it's given, you get the answer sheet. Practice writing your answers in that answer sheet. Get the printout of that. So you will know what kind of sheets you're going to get in the exam. Don't write anything in the margin. Don't write anything out of the box given to you for any answer. You write anything out of the box, computer will not check that and you'll get 0 for it. So in reading and listening, you should be careful about that. And in the writing test, where you write, don't write anything in the margins. Okay, what will the examiner see in speaking? So speaking, there are 4 parameters, 4 criteria. First is fluency and coherence. So fluency, see, if I have to speak in Hindi, I'm going to pause after every word. That's the way we speak in Hindi. I know Hindi, so I'm naming that, but I won't use it because I know some of you may be from different parts of India. When it comes to English, we put the words together. We put the phrases together and speak them like one word. So it is not that we put the words together. We put the words together. And then we stress the keywords more than the other words. And in those words also, in all words in English, English is a musical language. So one part of the word is stressed more than the others. That gives us good modulation. For example, now even when I said example, see which part of the word was stressed more? Determine. So which part of the word? So it's not determine, it's not determine, it's determine. So you should understand this. So there's coherence and fluency. Coherence is whatever is asked, do you answer that? Do you use linkers to connect your points? Then the second criterion is the lexical resource. Lexical resource is your vocabulary. So vocabulary, do you keep on repeating your words? Or do you use different words, synonyms? Are you familiar with idioms in English? All these things are seen in that. Then there is grammatical range and accuracy. Grammatical range and accuracy. Any question that is asked, you should be able to show that, yes, you got good hold in the past tense also. Then it is not just the simple sentences that you can structure. You can structure compound, complex sentences also correctly. Your subject-verb agreement is correct. So that is grammatical range and accuracy. For example, if somebody asks me, do you like to listen to songs, or do you like music, or what's your hobby? If you ask me what's my hobby, then I may talk about my present hobby. These days, I'm passionate about making oil paintings. Whenever I get some time, I love to sketch something and then paint it. Of course, my hobby has changed over the years. Earlier, it used to be reading. I used to be just engrossed in books all the time. Maybe in the future, it might be something different, or I may add some other hobby. So what did I do? I showed a range of sentences, the tenses that I could use. This is what it's seen in speaking. So grammatical range and accuracy. Then the fourth criterion is pronunciation. So how you pronounce the words. So your modulation is seen in that. The stress on keywords is seen in that. So go to Oxford Dictionary. We've got online dictionaries now. Go to Oxford Dictionary, go to Cambridge Dictionary, different such dictionaries. Listen to the pronunciation of 10 to 20 words every day. Practice it. And I'm sure you'll improve. You'll understand that. So these are the 4 parameters in speaking. This is what is seen in the speaking test. Then how the examiner will allot particular band score. So speaking and writing, 25%. I'll show it to you. Let me just take you to that slide. So band score in listening. 1 mark for 1 correct answer. There's no negative marking. So understand what you get. So if 20 to 22 correct answers, you get band score 5.5. 30 to 32, you get band score 7. So when you practice your listening test, since we are targeting 7 and nothing less than that, ensure that you do not get more than 10 answers wrong. And again, analyze. Is it in part 1 that you're going wrong? Part 2, part 3, part 4. That is, are you going wrong with the multiple choice questions or with the questions based on the map or the flow chart, the table completion or the list selection questions? Which type of questions are you going wrong with? Understand that, improve that area, and your band score will improve. This is the way you get the band score in listening. Target high. I would say target band score 9 in listening. And you can get it. It is achievable. Even if earlier you have not got it, practice it with the correct technique. After analyzing your weaker areas, you will definitely get it. Even when your English is not all that good, you can get it. I've seen students coming from tier 2 cities who have studied in the vernacular medium, that is Marathi, Punjabi, whatever it may be in that state. Those students have also scored band score 8, 8.5 or 9 in listening and reading. So because of that, their overall band score went up. So if they can, I'm sure everyone can. So in reading, this is the way you get in academic reading. General training, more correct answers are needed for that band score. So it's maybe 1 band score low in that. So see now again, don't get more than 10 answers wrong. And 7 is margin, so always aim higher. Of course, good universities can give you admission with an overall 6.5, nothing less than 6 in any. And you see now, for these, you can get 6, but to get admission in any university you feel like, target higher. Get at least band score 7 in each. That's what it should be. So this is the way you get in reading. Now let's see in task 1 and task 2. Here, let me explain. So in task achievement, that is whatever you see, do you answer that correctly or not? Here, for each, you get a band score separately. Suppose I get a band score, maybe 7 over here. So highest band score is 9. Then 8, 7, 6. So coherence and cohesion, that means there is a proper flow of points. They are connected also properly. There are different paragraphs to give different points. You get 6 over here. Some mistakes are there. Lexical resource. Maybe this is good. This is good. Then you get, let's say 8. So good vocabulary is used, but here and there you go wrong with subject-verb agreement. Or maybe instead of using simple past tense somewhere, you've used present perfect tense, different tenses. So obviously the marks will be deducted. This is the way you get. So your overall score is calculated then. 8 and 6, 14 and 6, 20, 27. So 27 divided by 4. You get the band score for, so overall band score for task 1. Similarly, it's calculated for task 2. Then how is the overall band score calculated for writing task 1? So remember, task 2 carries more weight. If you have 33% for task 1, then 66% for task 2, like I could put it this way. So how do they calculate? Suppose in task 1, your overall band score is 7. And in task 2, the overall band score is 6. So this will be doubled. This is doubled then because it carries more weight. This is doubled. So you get 12 for this, and then 7 is added, 19. So that 19 figure is divided by 3. And that's how the overall band score is calculated. So the overall band score will be 6 even though you got 7 in task 1. This is how it is calculated. And in writing, and similarly for speaking also. These are the 4 criteria. So again, 25% for each. You get a band score separately for each. Then the overall band score is calculated, depending upon the way you speak. So that question, I hope it has been answered, how the examiner will allot the particular, then the overall band score. Overall, all 4 are total and then divided by 4. This is how you get the overall band score. So imagine if you get band score 8 or 9 in both reading and listening, and then maybe 6 in writing, or let's say 6.5 in speaking, overall band score will still be high, because all total divided by 4. Now on pen and paper, is it fine if we fill our answers with capital letters? I've already answered this, that yes, this is what you should. Of course, in the computer delivered test, some answers can be just dragged. How to generate ideas in writing task 2. Okay, Prateek has asked this. How to generate ideas in writing task 2. If you have to speak on any topic, I think you look at the keywords. Let me explain this then, since you've asked, and this might be a question of many students. IELTS writing task 2, how do you generate ideas? So one is, you look at the keywords. What are the keywords in the question? Let's take any question. We had coronavirus lockdown recently, right? So many parents started going for homeschooling. They thought that instead of formal schooling, home tutoring was better. So let's see if the question is, many parents or many people think that homeschooling is better than formal schooling. So the keywords, homeschooling, formal schooling, these are the keywords. Now let's look at the keywords in the instruction. So instruction can be this way. What are the advantages and disadvantages of it? So you will talk about only advantages and disadvantages. Or it can be, what is your opinion? So that means some people think this way. What is your opinion? So you'll have to talk about your opinion in that. So the keyword over here is your opinion. Or the instruction can be see, some people think. So that means there is other side also. The others do not think this way. So the instruction can be, discuss both sides. Nobody's asked you your opinion. Discuss both sides. So in that case, you'll talk about that, discuss both sides. Or it can be, discuss both sides and give your opinion. So whatever the keywords are in the statement and the instruction, accordingly, you start collecting your points. So this is one way of generating content, right? Still, you do not have many points. You look at it from different angles. That is, I would say, VAP, viewpoint of the affected parties. Who are the affected parties over here? The parents, the students, right? So the parents are the affected ones, the students are the affected ones, the children. What is the impact on children? So if you are not able to generate many points using keywords, here again you will get keywords. Opinion, what is your opinion? Okay, my opinion is this, I'm the affected party. The others, what do they think? Think of people around you. I'm sure you must have heard about it. You must have read about it. Whatever it may be, put all the points together. So there's something called as mind mapping. Mind mapping is whatever points come to your mind, just note them down. After that, you organize your points. You organize your points. So you collect your points and then you organize your points. That is according to the instruction, which are the points you need for different paragraphs. Because the first paragraph is just paraphrase of the question. And if thesis is needed, you write your thesis. But in the body paragraphs, you will have to put your points according to the instruction given to you. So you organize your points accordingly. This is what you need to do. Now, when you organize your points, you should, if I say that homeschooling is better, I should have some reason for it. I should be able to come up with an example for it. Without example, who is going to believe me? So this is seen in your communication skills. Are you convincing enough? So how do you convince? In the writing test, you give examples to support your points. So in each body paragraph, you should have an example to support your point. So have each body paragraph have a topic sentence for that paragraph, have a supporting statement, and then an example to go with it. This is the way. So you asked me for organizing your point, like for generating content, look at the keywords in the question. That's what is needed. Practice with different questions. Start noting down your points. Don't write complete sentences, but just note down the points. If you watch television, I'm sure now and then you must have come across such points. You read about it, you heard about it. Huh? Okay, next is how to use good vocabulary for high schools. Interesting question. How to use good vocabulary. We all are human beings and we have a tendency to forget. So what should we do? Use, reuse, revise, revise. Every week, the words that you come up with, the new words that you learn, revise them. And vocabulary is something, if I just learn the words, maybe I generate. Huh? For instance, this is a new word for me, generate. And I look for the synonym and I'm going to use the word generate. But then how to use the word? That's what is important. Yesterday only I was going through somebody's essay and the person has used the word like kingdom for government. And when the student was asked why kingdom for government, because he had read somewhere that kingdom was the synonym for government. Then for children, kid. So kid is definitely a basic vocabulary word. We should not use that for children. And now when somewhere children is mentioned, we should not use teenagers. Teenagers are different. It's only when you attain the age of 13 that you become a teenager. Children can be of age 5 also, 6 also. Somewhere if something is based on children or on teenagers, you should not use the word children throughout in your essay because that essay is about teenagers. So good vocabulary for high schools, you should practice using words. Every day, think of 5 new words. You read, you get those 5 new words, use them in sentences. And when you have to write about something, try to use those words. Then after you've written an essay or writing task on a writing task, to whichever it may be, replace your simple words with high-level vocabulary words, words that are not used very often. Replace those simpler words. Do this kind of exercise yourself every day and you'll improve. Okay, the next question is, after the listening and reading sections, will the writing part start immediately or it'll start immediately? So in the computer-based test, it's the first you have listening, 30 minutes, then reading, 60 minutes, then writing, 60 minutes. When time is up for one, then the next one starts. In the pen and paper test, these days, like since June, it has been different. First, you start with the writing part, and then you move on to reading and then listening, or it can be listening and then reading also. Okay, next is, can you please point us towards some good resources for mock tests and learning for mock tests? For mock tests, Cambridge practice tests are good. You get that book with 4 practice tests. It's close to the actual test that you get in the IELTS exam. Use that for practice. Then see, when you register for the exam, you get this book only. This year, the students are getting practice test book 16. Last year they got 14. So imagine now there are so many of them. So you can get one and start practicing from there. That's the best one. Whether you are applying for, you're planning to take the computer-based or pen and paper, you can use this book to practice. Now, what type of IELTS does one appear for when they're planning on going to Canada for undergrad studies? Academic. When the exam will be held? Well, when is it that you want to take it? Computer-based is on all 7 days throughout the year. Pen and paper, you get 4 tests in a month. So maybe then if you calculate in a year, 48 times 48 are those slots that are there in a year. So you choose whichever you wish to. Prepare for your IELTS exam, I would say. Take the mock tests. You prepare from anywhere. But remember, it is important to take the mock tests, to analyze the mock tests before you go and take the actual IELTS test. Rehearse for the actual show. That's what is needed. Okay, next is, could you suggest any academic journals? So academic journals, all these science journals, they are there. I mean, the Discovery magazines are there. BBC News, you can use any. Is it possible to get a band 9 in essay? It is possible, but difficult. You need a lot of practice. You have to ensure that you don't make mistake. You answer the question, whatever has been asked, you answer it accordingly. You use good vocabulary. You get band score 9 in each criteria. It is possible. Will you please suggest some native speakers' name? Native speakers, like which speakers you want to know? Which speakers? Speakers from which field? If you can just let me know. Okay, next is, I've seen many students pick up certain new words from dictionary every day to practice. So what's the importance of rich vocabulary in IELTS? If you do not use those words correctly, and then somebody else is there who uses simple vocabulary but has grammatically correct sentences and uses 2 or 3 words here and there of high level vocabulary, that person will get a higher band score. So the importance of rich vocabulary is use it correctly. Spellings should be correct. If your spelling is wrong, you do not score anything for that rich vocabulary. You lose points over there. If you use it wrongly, again, if you use it repetitively, you can score for it only once. Okay, average band score obtained by Indians. Average in the academic, usually it is 6. So 6.5 is definitely better. 7 is better. Ajay is, yes, Ajay, would you like to ask something?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but then looking at the time, I'll humble request you if you can summarize, so that our students can understand. And what we can do is we can have this question and answer, and then we can send you so that we can, you can reply.
Perfect. That would be great. That would be great. First of all, you need to decide when you want to take the IELTS test and register for it. How do you register for it? Understand, we do not have British Council now in India. It is only the IDP that we have. So go to the official site of IDP, select your test date and register for it. In India at present, I think it's for rupees 15,500. So it's your hard-earned money or your parents' hard-earned money. ensure that you prepare for it before you choose the exam date. Then how often you can take it? As many times as you wish to. Soon after your result comes, if you feel your result is not according to your expectations, you can take it. Have your passport ready before it, because you'll have to fill in your passport details. What is the band score requirement of your university? Practice accordingly. Now, the details that are to be filled, academic or general, be careful. There are many students who make this mistake. They want to take the academic and in a hurry, they choose the general training over there. And then later on, it comes as a shock to them. So be careful about it. So as you said, if I have to sum up whatever we've discussed today, one is prepare. Prepare before you appear for the exam. And if you have taken the IELTS exam earlier, analyze where was it that you went wrong? What was your weaker area? Understand that. Understand the strategy for it. Even those who are planning to take it, you should also focus on these areas that, yes, what are my weaker areas? Is it grammar? Then I should improve that. Is it my vocabulary? I should improve that. Is it my speaking skills? Is it my writing skills? Or maybe I lose interest in whatever I read. After one paragraph, only you start yawning and you don't feel like reading. How will you score well in reading? Then listening, are you able to understand what the native speakers say? So you need to analyze these things, understand your weaker areas. Then understand the way the different tests come, what kind of questions are asked in each, how you should answer, how you have to follow the instructions given in each. Be very careful about that, because instructions are extremely important in the IELTS exam. You may be very good, but if you do not read the instructions correctly, you may get a low band score. Speaking, practice speaking with modulation. You may sit in front of the mirror, practice, or you have your group with your friends, or maybe you make your parents sit in front of you. Practice in front of them. Look at them. Or maybe because in the IELTS, it's your modulation which is same. It's your fluency which is same. Then also learn some idioms. Idioms should be learned and then practice. So every day when you talk to people, try to use one or two idioms here and there, so that it becomes easy for you. It'll be a cakewalk for you then after that, right? So any questions that you may have, you can ask, or you can post me those questions. And anything specifically that you want me to answer, Rajiv?
That's fine. So, my dear friends, so thank you so much, Sunita ji. You have give us a detailed explanation and the most important thing, techniques about how to score good bands. So, my dear friend, we are talking from upGrad abroad, wherein we are talking when we have discussed about how to crack IELTS. And believe me, yes, IELTS is one of the most important exam, that is English proficiency test, for going for whether you're going for planning for US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, or maybe New Zealand or Germany. And we are talking about both bachelor's as well as master's. So for masters, generally it is recommended 6.5 with no band less than 6. And for bachelor's, we recommend 6 with generally 5.5. Right. So listening, reading, writing, and speaking, the 4 elements. And as rightly pointed by ma'am, nowadays we can register the exam with IDP, right? And then please make sure that for student visa, we are talking about academics, not the general one, right? And this exam certificate is valid for 2 years, right? So though there are multiple exams of English proficiency, but then one of the most widely accepted is IELTS. And with upGrad abroad, we give you this exam, this coaching as a part of the curriculum. So you don't need to worry about, how am I going to prepare it, but we'll definitely, will help you to prepare for the exam. So from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank Sunita ji for your wonderful explanation and session, which would really help our participants to understand how to crack IELTS, and specifically to make sure that probably they'll plan for at least 7, right? So thank you so much, my dear learners, and hope that yes, you will study IELTS very soon, crack it, so that we can plan for the coming intakes. It could be probably January 2023, or probably it could be September 2023. And if you plan to go abroad, we have accelerator program wherein we save almost 80% cost of your first year. So you can join with us whether in bachelor or masters, and then we can plan for overseas education. So thank you so much once again, Sunita.
Okay. So there's just one question before we end, because I found that question important when I was going through this.
Yes, yes.
Somebody's asked about the accent. So you don't worry about the accent, but yes, whatever you say should be clear. There should be clarity in your speech. The other person should be able to understand whatever you say. So that's why reduce the effect of your mother tongue. That's mother tongue.
I'll give you a specific example, ma'am, when I personally take the interview, I see that I'm not trying to blame anyone, but then the student comes and say, I have done education. So this education, this is called as mother tongue influence, right? So this is this is very important that we need to understand is education.
Oh, so that's interesting. The education. So that is sir and sure thing.
Yeah.
So you should understand that in Hindi, we have sir and sure.
Right.
These three sounds are there. In English, it's sir sound and sure sound only. So sure. And if you feel that you find it difficult to have this sound, a simple technique is there even for this. Let me share it with you. If you feel that you, no matter how much you try, instead of she, it is see that you say. Instead of shallow, you say shallow. So just understand how your tongue should be when you have sure sound. Sure, your tongue should be loose. And you look up, and then start pronouncing the words show, shine, shallow. Bring your face down, show. You'll realize with 4 days of practice, you'll be able to have sure sound, because at times it has got nothing to do with English. Even in Hindi also, you may have sir sound where sure is needed. So we have these techniques, right? Yeah. And so
that's so wonderful, so nice of you, right? So my dear friends, the ma'am will teach you and help you to understand so many techniques wherein actually it will be easier for you. And we have said so many times, yes, one of the important component of going towards this education is IELTS. It's not just IELTS, but then believe me, when you write SOP, right, there also, you need to have an effective English. So IELTS once again helps you there. And even, when you appear for the interview, specifically when I talk about US, you have a visa interview. So they look at your vocab, they look at how do you pronounce the things and all. So there also IELTS helps you. So it's very important, not only to just score but to make sure that, yes, we are going to the dream destinations. We are going to the dream universities. And for that, we need to have our English right. So it helps you not only for the IELTS as an exam, but also for other things also. Thank you so much, Sunita ji. And thank you so much, my dear friends who have joined with us, who have patiently listened to us. I hope we must have cleared all of your doubts. But if there are any left out, we'll definitely come back to you. And you can always register us in our website so that, we can always help you. Thank you so much, Sunita ji, once again. Bye-bye. Take care.